On behalf of Venafi, HashiCorp, and Carahsoft, we would like to welcome you to today's podcast, focused around HashiCorp Vault and Venafi, scaling in production, where Paul Cleary, Ecosystems Architect at Venafi, and Larry Eichenbaum, Senior Solutions Engineer for Federal at HashiCorp, will discuss how HashiCorp Vault and Venafi can increase your Zero Trust security posture, establish policy and compliance guardrails, and seamlessly accelerate mission delivery.
All right. So hello and welcome everybody. My name again is Paul Cleary, the Ecosystem Architect here at Venafi, and I'm joined by Larry Eichenbaum, Senior Solutions Engineer at HashiCorp. Today we're going to be taking a look at the few different ways that organizations are scaling HashiCorp Vault in production along with Venafi to securely use machine identities in their application and deployment pipeline. And when I talk about a machine identity, real quick, that's a TLS certificate, and that's something that we'll get into during this presentation here. And so as the ecosystem architect at Venafi, I work with our technology partners, such as HashiCorp, as integrations are built between the Venafi platform and many of the security products that your organizations use every day. Venafi is the cybersecurity market leader in machine identity management, securing the cryptographic keys and digital certificates on which every business and government depend on to deliver safe machine-to-machine communication. The integration that we're looking at today between Venafi Trust Protection Platform and HashiCorp Vault is just one example of the necessity of the ecosystem. It takes really strong collaboration from partnerships like this one to help eliminate some of that friction between security and development teams and increase the overall security posture of the organization. Larry, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and HashiCorp?
Sure, thank you, Paul. So as Paul said and Christina said, my name is Larry Eichenbaum. I'm a Senior Solutions Engineer here at HashiCorp. I've been working in the DevOps space for about 7-8 years now, and what I found, and one of the reasons that I'm here at HashiCorp, is we find that there's a lot of challenges that customers are having in industry today, especially around how they manage secrets and protect secrets. And HashiCorp is an industry leader in that space. We make it easy and accessible for all of your applications, your humans, your clients, to consume secrets, certificates, all sorts of data that you want to keep secret. And we do so in a very robust manner to enable all of your applications and tools to work together. At the end of the day, it's really a focus on how do we enable your systems to function in this multi-cloud world, often paired with on-premise, and enable capabilities to allow you to adopt a least privilege aspect and zero trust model for your systems. So thank you for being here today.
Excellent. Thanks, Larry. So before we get started, really we just want to set the stage a little bit. And to do that, Venafi has been helping organizations like yours solve machine identity management challenges for over 10 years. And we really view this space as an authentication issue. And so to that regard, there are really two actors on every network. We have people and machines. And people rely on usernames and passwords to get access to the data and the services that they use every day, but machines don't use usernames and passwords. They still need to authenticate themselves and gain access to these systems, but they use something called machine identities or keys and certificates, or you may be more familiar with the term non-person entities or NPEs. And so every year, businesses are spending $11 billion protecting usernames and passwords, but we're just now starting to get protecting machine identities with that same level of effort. And the bad guys and the threat actors out there have already started to figure this out, and so they start to dedicate more time and resources on compromising these extremely valuable machine identities. The challenges connected with managing machine identities have become much more complex over the last few years. The physical perimeter is gone. As Larry mentioned, organizations are moving more toward a zero trust model. And remote work is routine today. Physical security is no longer relevant. So we've got things like the cloud, mobile, edge, and IoT devices that all need to be authenticated properly and connected to our enterprise networks. And so the question becomes, how do we allow or deny access? And the answer, as I mentioned on the previous slide, is authentication or identity. Identity really has become that new perimeter. And so our definition of machines includes all the new technologies found on enterprise networks. These are things like containers, clusters, services, APIs. And because all of these require machine identities to communicate securely, we need a method and a platform in place to manage those securely with visibility, intelligence, and automation for the organization. And so today, organizations, again, really need a way to manage this wide range of machine identities. And in order to put into place an effective machine identity strategy, we need the ability to verify every machine identity that gets issued throughout the organization. We need a system of record that can control access to trusted users, to trusted machines. And then we also need the ability for the security teams to have visibility into that issuance process. So wherever teams may be requesting these machine identities, they need to be requested in a way that conforms to the policy set forth by the security teams, as well as gives them visibility into the issuance of those certificates, right? And so, Larry, I believe HashiCorp Vault can create and store most, if not all, of these different machine identities. Is that correct?
Yeah, Paul, that actually is very correct. So with Vault, we can apply and leverage authentication and authorization as two mechanisms to control access and enable those different types of machine identities to communicate with one another. As we know, as we are building up microservices and applications that are really leveraging newer technology stacks, it's necessary for those communications to happen incredibly fast, and we need them to be incredibly secure. And so with Vault, with all those identities, one other thing that we do is we ensure that every request or every transaction is both authenticated and authorized. Because just because some system or tool was permitted to make a connection or communicate 30 minutes ago doesn't necessarily mean that they should be permitted to communicate now for reasons. And so bringing that layer of additional security is really key into how these tools interact and work together.
Excellent. Yeah, thanks, Larry. Great point. So just to keep setting that stage just a little bit before we get into a demo and example use cases, we've got to paint a picture. And so human identities are really literally the tip of the iceberg in huge organizations that you guys work in every day. They represent a fraction of the overall identities that organizations need to manage to confirm or deny access to those systems that we talked about.